All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us with another presentation from Gust and Bench. Well, mostly Bench. We are kind of wrapping up our scale series, which is programming all about companies in a growth stage or a scale stage. So after launch, after probably initial fundraising and initial rounds, and getting very busy in a whole different way. They say going from 0 to 1 is almost impossible, and then 1 to 10 is 10 times as impossible. But there's some things that you really need to focus on and focus your time on as a startup founder, as a startup founding team, and you're wearing all the hats. So, you are the C of everything if you haven't hired, if you're scaling your team. And at some point, you're not going to be able to do everything as a founder, or even as a founding team, or even as a small team that started out. As scale starts to happen, there is going to be so many tasks that are very important, sometimes boring and sometimes seemingly less pressing, specifically like accounting and bookkeeping, that will almost be impossible. There are not enough hours in the day to do all that while also pushing product, while also hiring your team, while also possibly fundraising, and et cetera, et cetera. So how do you handle that? Well, we've brought our partners from Bench to actually help that, and it is outsourcing it. And they've not just, the obviousness of getting help from outside experts, but looking at it from the perspective of return on investment. I think a lot of times people get this idea that like, of course I could do that, but how big is the actual value of it? And that's why we brought Bench in today to talk with us and share with our audience all the benefits and return on investment from outsourcing things like accounting and bookkeeping. I am pleased to introduce Andrea from the Bench team. We have Justin here as well, who's going to help me out with some chat and Q&A. She'll run through a presentation. We'll have some time to do Q&A at the end. If you have any questions in the meantime, please use the chat, use the Q&A to ensure that we get to them. Feel free to throw your startup name and where you're coming from in there. As always, we'll record this and we'll post it on our YouTube channel in a couple of days after we wrap. And any kind of cool stuff that Bench calls out or references or gives us, we will send along with that follow-up email so you can take everything away from it. And without further ado, and Andrea, take it away.
Thank you, Ryan, for the introduction. As Ryan mentioned, my name is Andrea, and I am a lead accounting associate here at Bench. So yeah, I'll be going over the return on investment on outsourcing your back office task early. So I will be sharing my screen just so you guys can see the presentation. And yeah, am I good to go there?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go over briefly on the agenda. Give me one sec. Okay. So yeah, this is what I'm gonna be talking about. So I'll be going over the benefits of outsourcing and signs you're ready to do so. Calculating the return of investment of outsourcing, how Bench can help take bookkeeping and tax prep off your plate, and then we'll have a few moments to go over Q&A. Okay, so here at Bench, so what we do is we pair small business owners with expert bookkeepers to get their books up to date and compliant with IRS standards. From day-to-day bookkeeping to stress-free income tax filing, Bench has you covered. So the question is, why outsource? So to start things off, let's take a look at reasons why we should outsource. So I know you're all busy business owners with a lot on your plate. So I want to talk about some of the signs of when outsourcing is the right choice for you and when you should consider doing it. Oh, let me switch. Okay. So to begin with, the benefits of outsourcing. Time-consuming tasks are taken off your plate without paying full-time salaries or benefits. Outsourced tasks usually get done better and faster than before. You're able to scale your business because you have more time to spend on revenue-generating activities. And by working shorter hours, you save energy and sanity. Don't discount how important that can be in the business world and as a small business owner. So yeah, so the question is, when should you consider outsourcing? To begin with, when your expertise falls short. So most of you didn't start a business to be pouring over your back office tasks, and that's totally okay. There are so many helpful tools and services that can help you fill the gap so you can be experts on your own business and your clients. We'll talk about that a little bit later shortly. Another reason is when you find yourself short on time and when you have growth targets. So maybe you already have expertise on your side and are a QuickBook whiz, but you have growth targets that you have to hit, and you have to be really careful about where you're spending your time on. So what is going to unlock your growth? That's a very important question you should be asking yourself. Revenue and client generated activities is the answer, not back office tasks. Any advisor or board member will tell you to get those things off your plate as soon as possible. Sorry, I think I skipped one. So what are the best things to outsource? So the first one being payroll. You can have an accountant run your payroll for you as you scale and have employees to take care of. Many accounting firms offer these services, or at the very least, make sure you're using a startup-friendly payroll tool. Gusto is a recommended payroll and HR platform because it's that simple to use. You can run payroll literally in minutes, and they have integrations with bookkeeping platforms like Bench. It's not technically outsourcing, but it's as close as you'll get without hiring an accountant. The second thing to outsource would be human resources. This is one that you might not need a full-time employee dedicated to, but it is important to have someone thinking about HR policy and compliance and handle one-off needs. Companies like Bambi give you full access to virtual HR manager that you don't need to pay as a full-time employee. Then we have sales tax. Keeping up with sales tax can be tricky, especially if you're in a different, since it varies per state. That's why a lot of small businesses enlist in TaxJar, a solution for managing and filing sales tax properly within each state. TaxJar is especially ideally suited for e-commerce businesses using platforms like Amazon, BigCommerce, or Stripe. And then bookkeeping. And we're, of course, biased here at Bench, but outsourcing your bookkeeping can not only be a huge time and stress saver, but you have an expert looking at your books. They will catch more tax deductions or savings than you would perhaps be able to do on your own. We'll talk a little bit about this more later and how Bench can help you sort out your bookkeeping. And then with that said, I'd like to go over how you can calculate the return on investment of outsourcing for yourself. And then, yeah, like you should ask the question, should I continue doing this task myself, or is it easier to just hire a full-time employee to focus on this while I deal with other things? So I'll walk you through a scenario to help you show how to calculate this decision financially so it makes sense. Of course, there are other factors aside from money, but that's understandable because a lot of founders are focused on other things as well. I'll be using bookkeeping as an example. Okay, so let's walk through an example. Pretending that you're a business who does website development. This calculation will demonstrate how much more revenue earning time you could have if you had someone else doing your books. So like I said, you do website development in a week. In the life of a website developer, you spend 36 hours developing websites. 10 hours are spent on other tasks, such as answering emails, booking appointments, doing invoicing, and about 2 hours are spent on bookkeeping. So if you add all those hours up, that would be around 48 hours total worked per week. And let's say, just for the sake of this exercise, that you charge $90 per hour for your work. So note the amount you earn during the week is a product of the work you did across those 48 hours work, not just the ones that you spent creating websites. So not just the 36 hours you spend doing the website, but rather the 48 hours where you spend doing all of, including the backend stuff. So taking that into account, we can calculate a true hourly wage for you. So we'll start by calculating how much money you're bringing in. So for example, you're using the 36 hours that you're working in the week, and you're charging $90 an hour. So that would add up to $3,240 earned on website development. That's how much money you're bringing into the business. And then you would divide that by the total of hours you worked in that week. So that's about 48. And that amount divided by 48 would be $67.50. So that is your average wage per hour of work. And then, so now that we know how much your time is worth by the hour, we can figure out how much DIY or do-it-yourself bookkeeping is costing you. So $67.50 times 2 hours spent on bookkeeping, that's around $135 per week. So based on your hourly rate, you're spending approximately $135 worth of time per week on bookkeeping. And if you add that up for every week that there is in a year, so times 52, that would be $7,020 that you spend per year on bookkeeping. Compare that to having a bookkeeping team handle it for you. So when you hire a bench at $249 per month, that's totaling around $2,988 per year. You end up saving around $4,032 of your time per year. I just like to note this is easier to calculate where you're a web designer who charges by the hour. But if you're a salaried individual, who you can still use your weekly earnings in the same way to determine that 1 hour of your time and how much is worth losing that hour doing the task yourself. And so yeah, that was a more like a practical example of like how you would be able to calculate this. Other costs to consider would be time saved. So on average, the bench client saves 10 hours a month just by outsourcing their bookkeeping. Another reason would be experts will find ways to save costs. So a bookkeeper will be able to probably catch more tax deductions that you may miss by doing it yourself. You also reduce the likelihood of errors and fines. And some outsourced services are considered a tax write-off. So bench, for example, is 100% tax deductible. So make sure you purchase it before the end of the calendar year if you want it to count. And then, yeah, so some key signs that you need to outsource your bookkeeping. So let me know if any of these sound familiar. So do-it-yourself bookkeeping is taking more time than you would like or can afford based on the return on investment example I just went through. You've missed out on tax write-offs in the past. Making your quarterly estimated tax payments has become a major hassle. You're struggling to stay on top of your cash flow or track account payables and receivables. Your books are never up to date and tax season is catch-up time. And so with that said, I just want to stress on why year-round bookkeeping is important, since you might be thinking that you don't need to do this task monthly, so you don't need to pay to outsource it every month. So the first reason of why it's recommended to have bookkeeping year-round is because tax season will be less stressful. So doing 12 months of books at once is very time-consuming. You're also very likely to misplace receipts and miss out on deductions if you don't review them monthly. You also need up-to-date books to borrow money. So lenders and investors want a clear idea of how your business's financials are before giving you any money. So they'll need a few months of balance sheets, income statements, and cash flow. So you do want to make sure you have those in handy when the opportunity comes around. And you can also catch and fix errors sooner. So regularly organizing and updating your books can help you catch the erroneous overdraft fee today rather than 6 months from now when it's too late to bring up. These costs can add up over time, especially if you're just starting out. And it can also help you make growth decisions more frequently. So regularly reviewing your financial statements can help you make informed decisions. You can answer questions like, are sales up? Are your shipping costs too high? Will you have enough money next month to cover payroll? Is cash flow increasing or decreasing? Only reviewing once a year means you're missing out on valuable opportunities to improve. And then, so how can bench help? So better finances means less work. So at bench, we do your bookkeeping, income tax prep, and filing, so you can focus on your business, which is exactly what most business owners that just started out really want to do. You can take advantage of expert support at any time. You can enjoy unlimited access to expert advisors at no extra cost. Our team can answer any financial question quickly, no matter how complex. We also offer smart, reliable finances. We guarantee accurate IRS compliant books, so you're ready for tax season. And we also offer catch-up services, no matter how behind you are on your bookkeeping or tax filing. Bench specialized team of experts get you caught up fast, ready to file back taxes and compliant with the IRS, which is very important to note. And here's one of our clients, a testimonial from Victoria Cram, the co-owner of Wandering Brains. So since she joined Bench, she says that our small creative business has been using Bench for 2 years now, and it made a world of difference. Having professionals on our side that can answer any questions and address any concern you may have is a relief. So as you can see, she's enjoyed the access to our bookkeepers and ready to go financials that are IRS compliant. And then so right now we're offering 30% off 3 months of bookkeeping, tax prep, and filing. You can visit the Bench page and the Gusto page link to get a free month of book done by and try us out to see if you like the service. And there's also a special offer for our Gust VIP members to get 50% off 6 months. There will be more details provided later on. And I believe that is it from my side. If there's nothing else, I think we can jump into the Q&A.
Wow, thank you very much, Andrea. I actually had some questions myself when you were going through that. You said that the bench was tax deductible. Is that any of the fees that you pay bench for the year is tax deductible?
I believe so. Can you clarify your question? I'm not sure I understood.
My real question was going to be, you said that those kind of services are tax deductible services, and I was curious if it changes if you use somebody like Bench and their services are tax deductible, but if you hired somebody internally to be a bookkeeper part-time, if it's not, or if like the bookkeeping expenses that a company pays are tax deductible by default.
Sorry, Justin, you wanted to answer that?
Yeah, I was just going to say it depends on the method that they use. If they were to outsource it with Bench, it is tax deductible. And at the same time, one of the perks that we do is we look to maximize tax deductions in other aspects of their business as well. So in going with Bench, we'll make sure that you're getting as many tax deductions as humanly possible. And therefore, we always recommend going our route just because a little bit of extra cash flow ends up being in the small business owners' pockets.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Let me see. Let me pull up the Q&A. We actually got Justin was answering a lot of the questions while we were going along. But no, I think I got nothing from the audience. If you want to throw something in the Q&A, anybody, or you want to learn more about that, I dropped the link to the general discount partner page. I believe, Andrea, if people sign up for the free trial, they can actually see if it's a good fit for their business before any kind of transaction or anything like that, right? There's no... Yeah, so check it out. If you're in a question, if you're raising funds, if you're ready to scale, check out their services. It's really, Gus has been through whole history of things, and this kind of stuff can really bite you. I've actually seen many founders and companies in our orbit not realize some of the expenses that they were accruing through their business activities, things like sales tax, things like various fees that they had to pay, and registrations in certain states and things like that. And at a pivotal moment for their company where they were trying to raise funds or close a round, a surprise bill came in, or a surprise expense that they thought would be amortized in a different way or just didn't think of, and all of a sudden it completely upended the corporate strategy to the point of you can literally run out of money without even knowing it, just because you weren't actually keeping up to date on this stuff. So a lot of what Gus preaches is a little bit of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You don't have to spend your whole day becoming an accountant expert, but getting the right partners, getting the right platforms underneath you can really help avoid those shocks and get a little bit of more certainty into the future.
A couple questions I do want to address. Sorry to cut you off there, Ryan, but thank you for the context as well. Benjamin, going back to your question on us helping money businesses, I want to say that the answer is simply yes, but if you can provide some additional context, whether it's in a follow-up email to Ryan or myself, I'll throw my email in the chat momentarily. Feel free to provide more information and I can dig up some further information for you on that one. Anthony, going to your question on how this compares to Escalon, admittedly, I'm not as familiar with Escalon services, but upon an initial glance, we are able to package up your income statements, your balance sheets, take care of all of your bookkeeping in a comprehensive way for you. Whereas Escalon, I believe, is more on the surface level accounting and financial insights. With that being said, we have hands-on bookkeepers and a team of ready research experts that will be able to work with you, answer any questions, and you can book actually a date and time in their calendar as well for additional support. So we're very high touch and we're very hands-on with each of our clients as well.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why Bench and Gus kind of found each other at some point, and something I want to highlight because we've had our own experiences trying to utilize completely automated bookkeeping platforms, is that we're just not there yet as far as we've seen. There's been a lot of companies that come out and they say, we have an AI bot, we have this and that. Like a human won't even do your books. They'll just, give you the checkbox to be sure things are good. But Bench is a software company, but it also comes with people behind it that ensure that you're actually getting your books done and that there is, a service element to it. And we think that is, for the world of bookkeeping, still very, very important, because a lot of the companies that try to just do a pure technology solution either put more work on the founder's plate because they have to understand and use it, or they don't give the thoroughness of having an actual bookkeeper behind there.
Ryan, I'm seeing Alphonse's question asking for an interpretation in French. Do we distribute our webinar decks at the end to?
Yeah, we'll put that in the follow-up email. There are transcription that you can enable for your given location live. And once we get it up to YouTube, I think it should have a lot more options for transcribe. But I'm sorry, Alphonse, I don't think any of the three of us speak French. I'm not sure, but I do not.
That's a proper assumption. I know I don't speak French either, but Alphonse, once again, once we get those resources to you, you'll be able to hopefully translate it into French on your own. Apologies in advance as we don't have a working solution while we're running these webinars today.
Yeah, and another question for you guys, actually, because we deal with startups at every stage in Gust, and we were kind of pushing, our curriculum around scaling in the last month or so. Is there a point in which like a company would outgrow Bench? Is there, hundreds of millions of revenue or something like that? Or do you guys kind of scale up through the life of the company?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Ryan. I would say our typical sweet spot is between 1 and 25 employees. We absolutely service businesses that exceed that up to 100 employees as well. When we look at typical revenue ranges, we usually narrow in on our bread and butter range of 10,000 in monthly to 250,000 in monthly. So on an annual basis, upwards to maybe 5 million revenue. Now, when they do, say, graduate into an echelon that exceeds that employee count or that revenue count, we have a lot of close partners that we can recommend on the bookkeeping side as well that handle businesses of that size once they've reached that point.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, because all startups hope getting a startup to 5 million in annual revenue is a feat in and of itself. But if you can get that far, chances are there's more to go.
Absolutely. And we're happy to support all along the way. And then once you reach there, get you in touch with the right folks, the right companies, and the right organizations that will be able to continue growing at that scale.
Awesome. Well, it doesn't look like we have any more Q&A. I'm willing to make this a short, quick, and informative one and call it at the half-hour mark. Any additional remarks from Andrea or Justin that you guys want to share?
Once again, I threw my email in the chat. So if you do have any follow-up questions that come to mind following the session today, feel free to reach out to me. And other than that, just want to thank everyone for their time for joining us in today's session. Thank you for Andrea for running us through some lovely content on the bench side. And Ryan, thank you and Gust as well for hosting us.
Yeah, glad to have you guys over here. Thanks again. Like we were saying, we will record this and distribute this. We'll have the slide deck with it. We'll put the discount codes for the general Gust thing. And if you're a Gust launch customer, we'll send out a separate email with a kind of VIP link with a much deeper discount. So be on the lookout for that in the next couple of days, and more stuff from us as we enter into Q4 and figure out all the programming we're going to do then. Andre, thank you very much for the presentation and service up. Thanks for showing up. Justin, have a great week, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.